All right, looks like we are live. Happy Thursday, everybody. Let's just bring up a couple windows here just to make sure I can see your wonderful comments. And we are live. Looks like we're live everywhere. Okay. Happy Thursday. My name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. If this is your first time joining, we do these live streams, or I do these live streams on a pretty regular basis. Today we're going to be taking a look at an update to one of my favorite mobile apps. So if you are a designer or a photographer and you work with gradients, this will probably be good for you. Or if you just want to hang out and watch mobile apps or a mobile app, you can do that. So I see a bunch of people coming in the room already. Victoria, Steve, DeFear, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Brittany, Rudy, let's see, who else is this? Valdir, welcome everyone. And of course, folks popping in on Twitter as well. So let's talk about what's new in this app, what the app is, how the app works, and then we'll go from there. So first of all, the name of the app is Adobe Capture. You can download Adobe Capture from the iOS App Store or from the Google Play Android Store. So you can use it on either platform. It is a free app to download. Doesn't cost you a dime to download it. Doesn't cost you a dime to use it. However, if you are a Creative Cloud member, then you get to have the benefit of having whatever you create in Capture synced over to your desktop applications. If not, you can just use Capture and export the content out and use it any way you want. So Capture, again, is a free app for both iOS and Android devices. I'm going to be showing it on my iPhone, but you could absolutely use this on your Android. Now, the feature I'm about to show is a new feature in the app that is a beta. So I'm not 100% sure that this one beta feature is on Android yet. It probably is, I just don't know for a fact. But either way, it will be on Android when it's finally released. So the app is available on both today. You can go get the app and start using it on both today. But the one feature that's brand new as of like a week ago may not be on Android yet. And if it is, great. If it isn't, it will be. Stay tuned. Okay, so Adobe Capture, go download it, go check it out. Let's head over to the computer and see how this works. So I've got my phone in my hand. I'm going to fire this up. And I'm going to bring the phone over in just a second, but let me tell you what we're going to use it for first. Let's get the image ready, and then we'll bring over Capture to use with this image. So like I said, I've got Photoshop open. I'm going to open up a stock image. So this is an image I just grabbed from Adobe Stock today. We have this young medical person, and I want to create a new background for this person. But first I noticed that the image itself, like the overall image, seems a bit underexposed. It's a bit darker than I would like. So before I even do anything else to get rid of the background, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to our filter menu, convert for smart filters. That'll make a new layer or a layer of that background as a smart object. So now any filter we apply will be non-destructive. So I'm going to go into my filter menu. I'm going to come down to Camera Raw Filter. And in the Camera Raw filter, one of the first things I usually do is just hit Auto Tone to see what Auto will give me. Auto doesn't give me everything I want all the time, but it's a good starting place. So when I hit Auto, nope, that didn't give me anything I wanted. It just even made it a little darker. So sometimes Auto is great. Sometimes Auto is just okay. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and bump up the exposure just a bit. Let's brighten that image up. I'm going to also reduce the saturation because it's a person. I usually don't saturate people because that's what vibrance is for. And let's bring up the shadows a bit. Let's bring up the blacks a bit. There we go. Just make her nice and bright. And now we'll go ahead and click OK. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Let's see if I want to do anything else. Bump up the contrast a bit more and maybe bring down the highlights slightly. All right, I think I'm okay with that. Let's click OK. And again, night and day difference just from that one little adjustment. This is what we were working with before. This is what we're working with now. Okay, so now I can concentrate on cutting the image out, cutting the subject out. So to do that, I'm going to switch over to my quick select tool. And I'm just using the quick select tool to quickly get to select subject. I'm not going to drag through the image like I would have done in the past, because select subject will get me most of the way there, if not all of the way there, with one click of the select subject button at the very top. So this is machine learning using our Adobe Sensei technology to figure out what the subject of the photo is, or multiple subjects, and it makes the selection. Now, you still need to check because it is a machine. It doesn't always get everything perfectly correct. So like I usually just start on one end of the image and walk my way around visibly just to make sure nothing's missing, or it didn't, like, for example, all the way down here on her arm, it just missed a little bit of the arm. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that's why I start with quick select to add that little piece back in. Also, I noticed up here in the shoulder area, if we were to zoom in on that area, it looks like it was not close enough. So I'm going to hold down the Option or Alt key to bring that in closer. Not that close. There we go. Bring that in closer to fix that selection. Okay, so now that the selection's been fixed, we'll go ahead and go to the very next button next to select subject is select and mask. And now that I can click on select and mask, that will go ahead and do the cutout for me. All right, and if there are any adjustments you need to make, you can use your refine edge brush. For example, if you had a subject with a lot of hair or hair flying in the wind, you can usually bring back that hair with the refine brush tool. However, even though she doesn't have a lot of flying hairs, we're just going to do a quick brush around the hair just to make sure we're not missing anything. Any fine little edges. Okay, so now that we got that, I always set this operation or this function to output to a new layer with a mask. Otherwise, by default, it's on selection, which I don't like. So new layer with a mask, that's what I want. Okay, so now, getting all kinds of love all over the world here. So thanks for being here from Africa, from Albuquerque, from Iraq, from India. Thanks for all the countries chiming in today. Okay, so now let's go ahead and click OK, and that will create the new layer. So I still have the original background, still have the original image. All it did was make a new layer that's now cut out. And okay, so now we're ready to use capture because I've got the image isolated. I got just what I want. I have the subject cut out, so now I can replace the background because there is no background anymore. So I'm going to fire up my phone, and let me bring my phone over so you can see it. There we go. There's the phone. And now that I have the phone and up on the screen, I'm going to go to my Adobe folder. In my Adobe folder, I've got the Adobe Capture icon. So once again, for people just chiming in, Adobe Capture is the app we're using. It's a free app. You can go grab it from your iPhone or iOS App Store or your Android Google Play Store, either way. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and fire up Capture. And Capture usually comes up right to the camera, but I'm going to back out of it just for those of you who are new to Capture to explain all the kinds of things Capture can capture. What can it do? So right now it's showing me the same library that I'm using in Photoshop. So the stuff I capture here will be put in that same library. But at the very top, next to all assets, it can capture materials. These are used for 3D work, like in Adobe Dimension. It can recognize type. So, for example, if you took a picture of a specific type that you liked, it will try and find that type in Adobe fonts or the next closest thing to it and create a character style from it. It can capture shapes and convert them into vectors. Which is nice. So it's like a tracing app. It can capture colors, which is what we're going to do. Normally we would capture colors just like a colors theme, but now we have the option to also capture gradients. It can capture looks. These are great for video and Photoshop. So if you like the overall look of a scene and you want, like, the example I always give is I'm a fan of the Game of Thrones, and I kind of like how most of the outside scenes, especially in different parts of the mystical land of the Seven Kingdoms, they were kind of like a bluish tint that was kind of cool. And if you took a picture of one of those scenes, you could create a look of that scene for your video and for your photos. Patterns, another one of my favorite features. You can just basically make a pattern out of anything. Here, this is one of those, you got to show it. So if I bring the camera up, even though I'm pointing at her, look, it's creating a pattern of her. And I can, of course, go in and dictate what type of pattern it's going to create. There we go. So I can say it's going to be that kind of pattern, that kind of pattern, that kind of pattern, so forth and so on. So you got patterns and you have brushes. So a brush would basically be able to be used either in Photoshop, Illustrator, or Photoshop Sketch. And again, since we brought up the camera, we're going to go all the way back over to colors. Now in colors, you have now the choice between the color theme that we, hang on for a minute, the color theme that we used to do. There we go, color theme. And that would just, again, pick 5 colors, and you can stop it and literally select which 5 colors in the scene you want. Or the new feature, which is still in beta, is the gradient. So if I tap on this again and tap gradient, I will get 3 of these color pickers. And right now it's moving. So as I'm moving my phone, it's moving, it's trying to guess what I'm trying to select. I don't want to guess, I want to tell it. So if you just tap anywhere on your photo, that will freeze it. So now I can move my phone around and nothing happens. So now that I froze it, I can move these little color pickers around to get exactly what I want. So for example, this top one I think is my first color. So I can say, yep, I can go to the yellow, for example, and say that my first color is going to be the yellow in their stethoscope. I can say what my second color, which right now is on the shadow under the chin. I'm going to move that down and say, nope, I want more of the skin tone, which is going to be kind of cool. And then I can move the last one anywhere I want, anywhere in the scene. And I can say that this is going to be, pick up some of this blue in the medical garment. Now at the very top, you have a little dot. You can slide that dot back and forth to choose how much of either color you want. And then you have the little triangles to expand or contract to make again, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. So if you wanted a more, a smoother gradient, transitioning from one color to another, you spread them out. If you want the gradient to be more noticeable, like the color change, then you could move them, push them closer together. All right, so now once I'm happy with my adjustments, I can go ahead and hit the capture or the check mark, and then I can even adjust it further here. I can still change the swatches, I can change the harmonies, I can pick and choose again from the image. And by the way, even if it was an image that you're not looking at right now, like I captured this literally just pointed at my screen, you can load a photo. So if you got a photo already existing that you want to use for any one of these, for a material, for a pattern, for a brush, for gradients, for a color theme, you can pick an image off your device. So you shot one 3 years ago, you can bring up that image and use capture with it. Okay, so now that I got it exactly the way I want, I can hit save, and that will save it to the library and just bring the camera back up. Now, here's the problem with this right now as a beta. Capture always will let you save to a library. So I'm saving it right now to that Adobe Live 2019 library that I've been using all year. Great, that's the way I would normally do it. Unfortunately, because this is a beta, the beta gradient doesn't work in the library. It'll put it there, but there's nothing you can do with it. So, and it explains that in the library. in the library that this is a beta and this won't work yet from the library. They're like, well, what's the use? Why am I capturing this if I can't use it? You can't use it in the library, but you can still export it out and then send it over to whatever device you want. So then we're going to do that just now. So since I know it's in the library, but I can't use it yet because it's a beta, I can just tap the little menu at the bottom of it and you see what I get. I get share, I get export, I get save to the camera roll, so I can get this out of capture even though I can't yet sync it with the library and use it. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and do the export as. And you'll notice that I have three choices. I can export out an image that will export out a .ping file. I can export out an SVG, scalable vector graphic, which is what I really want. And I can also export out a CSS. So if I'm doing web development and I want a CSS file to go with the web development that I'm doing, I can do that. So I'm going to export out an SVG. And it's going to ask me where. I'm going to export it out to my computer that you guys are looking at in the background there. So I'm just going to send it over. That's an iOS function. And then once it sends it over, did I send it to the right one? Hang on. I have two iMacs here. Oh, I sent it to the wrong one the first time. Okay, we'll send it to the right one this time. All right, there we go. It sent it. And there, yep, the message just popped up. And now I will get out of the phone for now. And it basically sends it to my downloads folder. So it basically, that's a phone function to the computer. If you're not using iOS and you need to get it to your computer, on Android, you might save it to a Dropbox, a Google Drive, or something like that. Something shared that you can get to it from your computer. But anyway, iOS sent it over the air to my downloads folder on my computer, and here it is as a gradient, or as a SVG file. So I'm going to drag this SVG file right into Photoshop. There it is. It comes in the same size every time, and that's why I'm using, you might say, well, why did you pick SVG over Ping or over CSS? Well, CSS wouldn't do me any good, but over Ping. Because scalable vector graphics means that no matter how big I make this, I won't lose any quality. So that's why I did an SVG. All right, so now I'm going to hold down my Option or Alt key because I'm going to scale it from the center out. I'll make it nice and big, and then we'll go ahead and accept that size, and then we'll just simply pull it down in the layers to be underneath our subject. And so now we have a nice gradient background that is seamless, nice and smooth, no banding. Creates a very nice and smooth, clean gradient that I can use anywhere. If I double click on it, it's going to open it up in Illustrator. I can use this SVG in any application that supports SVG. And if it's an application that doesn't support SVG, then I would export it out as a Ping file to place in applications like InDesign, for example. Now, again, since the subject has been cut out, I can use the Move tool on that layer, and I can move the subject to the other side anywhere I want, scale the subject, and I would now have this beautiful gradient background, even using not only the colors from the image, but the skin tone so that it matches up very nicely and transitions from one color to the next. So that is what capture is all about. Patterns, colors, now gradients, materials, brushes, and looks, and type. So, and I've done it before. So if you like saying, hey, how does type work? Go look at one of my other videos and you will see type. Now we could take this up a notch. Let's see if we've got one in here. In my library, I've got some patterns. These are patterns that were captured with Capture. So if I were to, for example, just simply click on one of these, here, let me go to the gradient layer first. If I were to click on one of these patterns, that fills the image up with this not too great looking pattern right now. And you're saying, well, what's the point of doing that if you want the gradient? Well, here's what we can do. First of all, it's too big. Let's scale it down. And again, just like I talked about gradients being seamless and smooth, patterns are seamless. So no matter how big of an image you put a pattern on, it will fill that image and be seamless. Okay, so next thing I want to do is just drop the size of this down. So I dropped it from 25% down to 5%. Click OK, and it's like, okay, well then what's the point of having a gradient? Because now using live blend modes, I can go to my blend modes and I can just hover over these until I see one that I like. I kind of like lighten. I can use lighten, but it's still too strong. So I'm just going to lower the opacity of the pattern to kind of blend it in. So now I get a gradient pattern as a background. All custom. No one else will ever have this background because I use capture to create the gradient. You might be able to replicate the colors, but you would never be able to replicate that pattern because I made that pattern from stuff on my desk that you don't have. So you can make your own custom patterns and use them any way you want. All right, so go grab capture. The gradient beta is in the iOS version for sure. It's probably in the Android version as well. If not, it'll be in the Android version soon. And either way, you can go use capture on either device or either platform for all the other stuff that it does. All right, so with that said, thanks for watching. We're done for the day. We might even be done for the week. And if I don't stream tomorrow, if you're in the US, have a great Labor Day weekend. I will be back to streaming on InDesign Tuesday after the weekend is over. So we have Monday off. All right, so with that said, thanks for watching. Cheers, everybody. We will catch you on the next one. Thanks, Deanna. Bye.